Hello, everyone. I'm going to wait just a couple more minutes to see if anybody can jump on. I know everybody's busy. This is a busy time of year for everyone. So I will be sending out the replay after this. I didn't have any questions in the Google form, but that's okay. I'm going to just go over some of the most important things that goat busters should know when raising goats. So as a goat buster myself, I always get questions about worms, shelter, and definitely kidding questions. So those are going to be what I cover tonight. I'll give a couple more minutes and then we will get started. Just kind of playing around on Zoom. This is my first Zoom meeting with many more to come. So I think I'm gonna just go ahead and get started. So welcome everybody to the first Goat Busters class. I hope to have many more of these in the future. My name is Mindy Young. I've been a goat producer for 13 years. I started 13 years ago when we bought our homestead and we were brand new, fresh out of college and ready to have our own farm. And the farm that we bought was covered in trees. So we decided to utilize animals and we got some goats to help us clean the place up, and they definitely did. We had up to 70 goats at one time, which is a lot. Actually, probably closer to 100 goats at some point in time, including all of the baby goat kids that they all had. So that is a lot of goats. You definitely don't need that many. In fact, since having kids, I have downsized my goat herd tremendously. I am down to just a dozen goats, and I have never been happier. I just love my little goat herd. We have about 10 meat goats, 4 goats, and we have 3 dairy goats that my girls play with. And yes, we do milk the dairy goats, but not all year. We take some time off. It's not our prime source of dairy. In fact, we don't really drink the milk. We feed the milk to other animals. I have made soap before, actually. So, but what I want to talk about tonight is just some of the most important questions. Oh, I got kicked out. So anyway, hopefully I am good again. So some of the most important questions that I get asked on a regular basis, because in our area, I mean, goats are fairly new to our area. In the past 13 years, we were some of the first couple to start raising goats in our area. So we're kind of the, in our own area of Northeast Kansas, we are kind of the trailblazers of goats. Not specifically dairy goats, but meat goats, boar goats. specifically. Even our veterinarians didn't really know much about goats. Since then, our vet has had a herd of goats. So he did have goats for a while, and so he was a good resource. It was good to kind of shoot things back and forth with him. That is one thing that I always recommend, is to make sure that you have a vet relationship just in case you need something that is on label or off label, and you need to have some sort of prescription. If you have a good relationship with your vet, and they will likely get it for you. So that is important to note. So having a good relationship with a vet is important. We've had that. And since then, more and more vets have been added to he's kind of been growing his vet clinic as well, and actually hired on several more vets. And that in turn has grown the population of goat producers in our area. And I feel like we have a pretty good little group in our area of the state that raises goats for a multitude of reasons. But in that time, all of those people that have started, they have had to start new just like we did. And when I started, there was very few resources in our area for goats, hardly any. And I had to search and search and search and search and search and search. If I had a problem, I had to dig for the answer. And I didn't know what I was looking at, if it was good information. I wasn't sure what great information was, what the right information was, because there just wasn't enough resources when I started in my area that I knew about. So with that said, I kind of became a student in goats. So with that, I guess I will go into the first question I get asked a lot about, and that would be deworming. Deworming, and how I keep my goats so healthy and where I don't need to deworm all the time, which I don't deworm all the time. What I do, and what research has shown over the years, there's been lots of research done, is multi-species grazing and pasture rotation is a really good way to manage your worm load. And so if you have the pasture area and you can make little paddocks and you can grow cover crops and you can feed off the ground, then rotating your goats around is going to help with that worm load. Okay, so if you do feel like you do have a worm load, then the first thing you need to do is grab a fecal sample. And then you can either test it yourself, or you can take it to your vet and get a soil test. Are we gardening here? No. We're checking for worm load. So you can take it to your vet and get your fecal sample tested for what kind of worm your goat herd has. From there is a chart in my shop. I believe it's $1, but you will have it as a bonus if you get my kidding course. I'm gonna add it in as a bonus and you get it for free if you get my kidding course, which I'm gonna talk about at the end of this. You can have a chart, and what we've been doing, the goat community as a whole, is picking one dewormer, so 2 dewormers, one from each of the 3 classes. So pick one from one class and one from another class. So 2 dewormers from 3 classes. And then you deworm them based upon the recommendation. And this is vet tested, vet recommendation. And then you deworm once, and then again in 12 hours, and then again in 10 days. And that 10 days will cover the new round of eggs that had just hatched in 10 days time. So that is kind of the protocol right now that goat producers are doing across the globe. And it's working pretty well for us, really well for us. I have no complaints about it at all so far. Will it change? Possibly yes. Because they're not really coming out with new dewormers. So, but while we are able to not deworm on a schedule and deworm very, very frequently, then that is less time for our goats to become adapted to the dewormer that we're using. So that helps a lot. So that is deworming in a nutshell. It's actually very simple. I know when I started raising goats, it seemed very, very complicated, and it seemed like there was no hope. It's like, how am I going to control these worms? But honestly, just don't overgraze, rotate if you can, and use the 2 different classes of dewormer. Fecal sample first so that you know what you're dealing with, and it will help tremendously. So that is deworming in a nutshell, and worms for barber pole, tapeworm, lungworm, all of the fun ones that we get to deal with. Oh yes, there's a new one out called, oh, I don't remember, but Wildlife spread it around, and that is a new one that we're kind of exploring on what to do. I'll be talking more about that in the coming months. But it is one that you don't want because we don't really know too much about it yet. So we're not really sure on that one yet. So stay tuned for this new fun, exciting thing that's coming. So, that is deworming. I'm going to talk about next just facilities. Facilities, oh gosh, you definitely don't need $1 million mansions for your goats. I've basically good shelters consist of quality either building or just a freestanding structure that's not going to blow over. You can use posts to tie it down or whatever, and try to make sure that it is draft free. So no wind blowing through it, patch the holes in the sides, and that will keep them warm in any sort of weather, warm and dry. And that will reduce your chances of pneumonia later on, during the cold winter, or even in the summer. I've had pneumonia issues. I mean, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's winter, summer, you just need to keep them warm and dry somehow. And you use what you have. I mean, we never had the money to get like $1 million mansions for our goats. High dollar equipment and high dollar facilities. We never had the money for that. We just used what we had, and we built sheds. We would buy like lean-to structures to add on to our sheds, and we made it work. We even used junk that we found, like old freezers and stuff, to make shelters that were already on our place that the people before us left for us. We've used old bathtubs, just flipped them over, use that for like kidding, for like baby kids to crawl into. So hopefully that gives you some ideas, but draft free and freestanding or sturdy to where it won't blow away in a strong wind. Kansas is super windy. I know we're not the only state that's like that. I'm sure wherever you are is windy also. So just keep that in mind. So shelter, fencing, of course, fencing, is comedy for non-goat people. They just love making fun of our goats getting out all the time. And so rule of thumb on fencing is woven wire. You can train them to electric fence as long as it's super hot. You can train them to that. But woven wire works the best. Make it tight, super tight at the bottom. They will crawl underneath. In fact, I've had more goats crawl underneath of a loose bottom fence than jump over it. They are more likely to crawl under. So make sure that it's very tight at the bottom. And make sure that it's the smaller squares because they will stick their heads through. And we've had bad luck with that too. So make sure that it's the smaller goat fence, woven wire fence. Hog panels we've used, and that has worked fine. We have used woven wire or hog panels and put electric fence on the inside to keep them from sticking their heads through. Again, you got to make sure that it's tight and hot. You got to make sure that the electric fence is super hot for it to work. So that's fencing in a nutshell. Okay. I think I will go into kidding. My top questions are about kidding. Kidding questions. And there's so much to kidding. I mean, I think back to my very first kidding experience 13 years ago. Gosh, it's hard to believe it's been that long. But we had 9 goats to kid out. And it was extremely cold. And we had them in our shed, in our metal shed. And we had heat lamps, which love them or hate them. I've learned a lot about heat lamps over the years. They're good for maintaining heat, but they're not good for warming up kids or anything like that. You can use, for warming up kids, you can use like a hair dryer. You can use towels. Hair dryer has worked best for me. You can put them in a warm bathtub. And then always have a digital thermometer. That is like the number one tool that you need with your goats. That is the number one tool, hands down, is a digital thermometer. If I had anybody here, I would ask if you know what a goat's temperature should be, your internal temperature. And the answer is 100 degrees Fahrenheit to 103 degrees Fahrenheit. That is the range of what a goat's temperature should be. So if a baby goat kid is cold, it's out there laying flat, it's not getting up. The first thing I always do is check its temperature in the rectum. So gently take your thermometer, digital, and slowly put it into the rectum, and you will get a reading. If it's under 100 degrees, you need to warm the kid up before you give it any milk at all. That is super important. Super important. I go over prenatal care, doe prenatal care, and different things that can happen with does. I go through all of that in my course. So I'm going to save that for my course that you can get access to in just a little bit. And I don't want to spoil anything for you, but I do want to say the most number one question that I get pertaining to kidding is how to is why the kids act like they're dead when they come out of the dough. Or maybe they find them and they act like they're dead, like, and they were just born. And typically it does not, if it's cold out, it does not take long for that body temperature to start going down. And I think of my own childbirth, my last child's birth. He was a little bit early. He was about 3 weeks early, and they had to keep him under a warmer, and they had to, pat him and get him to revive quite a bit. And then finally he did. And it's kind of the same way with goat babies. And usually the mom does it. If it's a really good mom, the mom will do that. She'll start licking and she'll start nuzzling the baby. And that if the doe is not doing that, then the baby's not going to respond. So that is one thing to keep in mind. If you have a doe, and boar does can either be really good or not good at all. Not good at all. And so it just depends on the mom. So if you go out there and you see baby laying there, what do you suppose happened? Might be something to check on for later, but I'm thinking that the doe was not very receptive, not very nurturing when that baby came out, is kind of what I'm thinking. So with that said, that is something to keep in mind and to watch for. And then later on, maybe think about pulling that one or putting it in a place where it doesn't have to be nurturing, a warmer place. We have found over our 13 years, we've just started doing this. Natalia's coming. Anyway, we have started using old trailers and insulating them to make warmer spots for our baby goats being born, and that has helped a lot. Natalia, can you hear me? Oh, I think she left. Not sure. Anyway, so that is one thing that we have started doing, and we will put our non-attentive mothers in there, and then they won't have to work as hard to keep those babies warm. We can warm them up, and then we'll put them in there for a few days, and that helps get them going if you want to keep them around. So like I said, it's hit and miss, and sometimes the does just need a couple days to get their babies going. Like I said, I've had really good moms, and I've had some not so good moms at all. It's just kind of hit and miss. So with that said, I do want to talk a little bit about my goat kidding course that is going to be available after this call. And what it is, it's going to be everything my 13 years of experience kidding out hundreds of does, literally hundreds of does, as well as helping others kid out their does. Everyone in Northeast Kansas that I've helped. My grandparents had a herd for a while, helping them. All of my experience stemming from helping others, as well as my experience working with my local veterinarian, my state veterinarian when we had chlamydia issues, and definitely everything in this is going to be veterinary approved, science-based. It's going to help you manage your does and your kids better around kidding season. So with that said, it's something that I wish I would have had when I started. I mean, like I mentioned at the beginning of this, when I started raising goats my first year, if I had a problem, I had to dig and dig and dig for information to figure out the problem. There's hardly anything out there. And basically, I attended conferences with other goat producers, veterinarians across the country. And there was just not very many people here in this part of the world yet. And now there's way more. And I've been part of that trailblazing for this area of the country. And I am proud to say that. But now I've put everything that I know into this one place for anyone to buy for a very low cost. Let me just mention it's very low cost. The price is going to go up, but for now, for this year, it's very affordable for anyone getting started, wanting to find that information. If you have problems, it's got positions in there, pictures. It will have videos. As soon as my does start kidding, I'm gonna put videos in there. For now, you get pictures and you get text, but keep in mind that this is lifetime access and you will get access to all new updates. That includes if anything changes or is added in, you get those changes as well. So you'll be grandfathered in. You won't have to pay anything else for the rest of your life, and you'll have access to this. So if that is something that sounds good to you, then check for an email coming out. Actually, I'm going to put the link to that in the email that I'm sending with this replay to you. So after you watch the replay, then you'll have the link right in that same email and you can go over and get it there. So like I said, you'll get the whole course, and then you're also going to get some bonuses with that. That includes the deworming chart, and in that has what dewormers are safe for pregnant does and what are not. So that is something that you'll need to keep in mind also. So, friend, I am going to shut this down, but thank you so much for signing up. You're going to get this replay, whether you were here or not. And again, this was my first one, so thanks for bearing with me. This was kind of fun to do, and I'm hoping to do more on the topics of all homestead topics, gardening, other livestock, goats. So anything that you have an interest in pertaining to growing your own farm, growing your own food, I am here for you. So, friend, that is it for now. Own your dreams, own your life, and I'll see you down the road. Bye.